La Llorona, known as the Weeping or Wailing Woman, was likely born in the 1650s. We know this because she appears to be in her 20s when she is married with children in 1673. La Llorona was alive so long ago that the best known record of her mostly comes from the folklore surrounding her. While the stories vary depending on the source, a few constants overlap. When La Llorona was young, she had a different name. In some retellings, it's Maria, but in a well-known play written in 1917, it's Luisa. In many iterations of the story, she was born into poverty, but as she grew up, she became incredibly beautiful. So much so that she drew the attention of a wealthy ranchero. He married her and they had 2 boys. Unfortunately, these children would not live for very long. As she gave them life, she also took it away, thus beginning the Curse of La Llorona. To find out what drove this young mother to commit this act, how she became known as the Weeping Woman, and how her curse endangered generations of children, stick around to the end of this video. This video is sponsored by Audible. Welcome to Horror History. In today's lesson, I'll be covering the life and afterlife of one of Mexico and Central America's most iconic legends, La Llorona. There's not a lot documented about the childhood of La Llorona, but one thing that is consistent across the various legends is that she grew up in poverty. So when a wealthy conquistador came to her town and pursued her, it makes sense that this would be a very big deal to her. According to History Today, there was initially a shortage of Spanish women in what the Spanish dubbed as New Spain, the region now referred to as Spring Break. This meant that unions between indigenous women and Spanish men were quite common. However, many of these unions didn't last very long. To get a better understanding, we'll need to take it back to Mexico and parts of Central America during the 1600s, where this iteration of the legend originates. The fates of indigenous and mestiza women who married Spaniards were mixed. Some enjoyed stability and enhanced status, but more often than not, they were cast aside a few years later for younger women, or more often, a Spanish wife. More alarmingly, their children were sometimes taken away, a practice that derived from the Spanish tradition of relieving the so-called wayward women of their children. This left many women during this time to feel completely helpless. La Llorona is kind of an embodiment of the collective pain and anger of women from this time that got turned into legend. It's something that's come up a lot in horror history, from Godzilla being a metaphor for nuclear fallout to the Demogorgon being a manifestation of fears of communism. I think we need a term for this, so I'll call it cultural legendizing. That sounds pretty good. There are different iterations of La Llorona, but for the sake of horror history, we'll stick to the lore as told in the Conjuring universe, more specifically, the 2019 film The Curse of La Llorona. According to the local priest, Father Perez, the story goes as follows. La Llorona fell in love and had 2 sons with her husband. The family loved each other, and her sons demonstrated their care for her by giving her a necklace. I don't think she knew at the time how literally true this statement was. Father Perez explains that she and her family were happy until one day she found her man in the arms of a younger woman. In a fit of rage, she took away what he deemed most valuable, his testicles. Oh wait, no, it was his children, and she drowned them in the nearby river. As soon as her rage blindness cleared and she realized what she had done, she wept and then took her own life in the same river, cursing herself to an eternity of trying to find the souls of children to trade for her own.
Children are told to behave. Listen to their elders, or La Llorona will come and steal them away.
It kind of seems like the moral of the story has been aimed at the wrong people. The kids are the only people who didn't do anything wrong, and they suffered the most. And future generations of children are made to fear the tale of La Llorona, when it should probably be directed at couples. For the next 100 years, La Llorona continued to haunt the river and other bodies of water, searching for children to kill. As the legend grew, people claimed to hear a woman crying. Some followed the sounds to find a woman in a white gown floating above the river. If children were the ones to find her, she was said to be ruthless, and they wouldn't stand a chance of escaping. These stories mostly come from Mexico, but like my friends at the nearby taco truck, the legend would burrow its way across the border. In 1973, the Weeping Woman appeared in Los Angeles. All this time I thought it was La Llorona, maybe it's actually L.A. Llorona. It's never clearly explained how La Llorona went from haunting one specific river in Mexico to becoming an Angelino. We just know that she's doomed to an eternity of searching rivers and bodies of water. There are several rivers, such as the Colorado River or the Tijuana River, that run from Mexico into Southern California, so over the course of 100 years, she could have migrated up these channels. While La Llorona was just a children's tale to some, the single mother, Patricia Alvarez, and the recent widow, Ana Garcia, were about to experience the curse firsthand. I think La Llorona targeted these 2 women because they were reminiscent of herself. Patricia is alone in raising her kids, and based on Anna's questions about if she started drinking again, it's clear that she's had a rough life life and doesn't really have a support system. Anna lost her husband in the line of fire, and while he didn't choose to leave her, she was still left in a difficult situation nonetheless. Both Patricia and Anna have 2 children close in age to La Llorona's 2 kids, and both are Hispanic. La Llorona first targets Patricia and her 2 sons, Carlos and Tomas. Patricia seems to take all the necessary steps to deter the malicious spirits: a shrine of candles, boarded up windows, religious iconography, and a closet transformed into a protective spirit shelter for her kids. She may have set this up based on her own knowledge of the legend of La Llorona, which she demonstrates a pretty clear understanding of.
Your children, have they heard her crying? Have they felt the sting of her tears? They will, soon.
Or she could have received guidance from Rafael, a curandero or healer, who is an expert at handling La Llorona. This might explain why Rafael is at the service for her 2 boys after they're killed, and why he goes back later to collect a sample of La Llorona's tears. Either way, when Anna arrives and finds that Patricia has hidden her children away, Patricia begs Anna for just one more night, which seems to imply that if La Llorona isn't able to take the children within a certain time frame, she moves on. This could be representative of the nature by which La Llorona killed her own children. It happened in a fit of rage, and once she had calmed down, she regretted her choice. So maybe if given enough time, she'll spare the children she's after, just as she likely would have with her own. But that's just a theory. A film theory. In the Conjurverse, La Llorona does not just kill children upon first sight. Her haunting follows a specific process, which we've seen before. Her curse seems to follow the same rules that apply to demonic possession, by following the steps of infestation, oppression, and finally, possession. In La Llorona's case, she isn't necessarily trying to possess a person in the take over their body sense that we're used to seeing, but she is trying to possess children's souls in order to try to bring her own children back to her. It makes sense that La Llorona's curse follows the same rules as demonic possession, just as Bathsheba did with the Perrin family back in 1971. Bathsheba is not technically a demon, but the terror she dishes out follows the same process. But La Llorona's version of infestation, oppression, and possession have unique ways of manifesting themselves, which creates problems for all of those involved. Since I've already told you about Ed and Lorraine Warren's books that you can listen to exclusively on Audible, there are also many more reasons to explore the catalog and sign up. Audible is the only place you can listen to The Demonologist, the career biography of Ed and Lorraine. It's also the home of the Haunted House Diaries, where you can hear about many more unexplainable details of the farmhouse they investigated in the original movie. The Conjuring movies can only show you so much. If you want to know everything, your ticket is Audible. Audible offers an incredible selection of audiobooks across every genre, including lots of horror. You'll also discover exclusive Audible originals from top celebrities, renowned experts, and exciting new voices in audio. Members get a free title every month for keeps. Plus, there's a great selection of free podcasts. If you're new here, welcome to Audible Book Club. This month, I'm checking out The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. It's a short story by one of my favorite authors. She wrote Gone Girl and Sharp Objects. I thought I had read all of her stuff, so I was excited to find this short story on Audible. To try out Audible Premium Plus free for 30 days, visit audible.com/CZsWorld or text CZsWorld to 500-500. You'll find that link in the description, audible.com/CZsWorld. La Llorona's curse follows 3 specific steps. First, she burns the children with her tears by grabbing their arms and scorching them. By doing this, she gains access to them, including the ability to put them in a trance and lure them to her. This aspect of the legend would reflect her own children's trust in her before she drowned them. With all of her victims, her method of attack is drowning them in the nearest body of water. The location of the burn marks left on their arms also ties back to the legend from the 1600s. The burns are in a very visible spot, and from what we can see, most or all of the families that her spirit terrorizes are single mothers. Children in single-parent households are significantly more likely to be abused, according to this study in the National Library of Medicine. As I mentioned, Patricia was already subject to welfare checks before La Llorona entered her life. If abuse is found during a welfare check, law enforcement may take away the children for their safety. So the very visible burn marks feel like La Llorona's revenge. After her children were unfairly taken from her, she's imparting that same pain onto her victims. This is exactly what happens to Patricia. Keeping the boys hidden away in the blessed closet was her last hope at keeping Carlos and Tomas safe from La Llorona. But during her welfare check, Anna tries to take them out, leaving them completely vulnerable. As the boys sleep in the foster care institution, La Llorona makes her next move. She puts Tomas in a trance and summons him out of the bedroom. Carlos wakes up and, seeing his brother just standing at the edge of the room, runs towards him, trying to get him to come back to bed. But it's too late. Carlos catches sight of La Llorona in the mirror. Then, after her briefly disappearing, he gazes upon a puddle of water from a leak in the ceiling, and this happens.
Carlos.
She grabs both of them and takes them to a nearby river to drown them. Anna is called to the crime scene to identify the bodies, and with no father to watch them, she has no choice but to take her own children with and lock them in the car.
Stay in the car, okay? And please don't wake up your sister.
But Chris is a kid, and of course, kids don't listen to their parents, especially when they're right next to an active crime scene that looks really cool. Patricia also shows up and, driven mad with grief, tries to blame Anna for interfering. When Anna asks what she's talking about, Patricia tells her.
La Llorona.
At this point, Patricia essentially becomes a proxy of La Llorona herself. She's prayed to the wicked spirit, asking her to take Anna's children in place of her own.
And I pray to her to give my children back to me and take yours instead.
Patricia is now following La Llorona's ghastly footsteps, hoping to sacrifice other children in order to trade their souls for her own. It's almost as if the spirit of La Llorona sees Anna's kids through Patricia, because Anna's kids aren't targeted until Patricia makes eye contact with Chris as she's taken away in the police car. When Chris ignores his mother's warning and gets out of the car to investigate, La Llorona sobs in a nearby alley, luring Chris to her sound. As he checks to see if she's okay, her head suddenly snaps in his direction, and she lunges towards him, allowing herself to burn him with her tears by grabbing his arm and scorching it. She's now attached herself to the family. She chases him back to the car, where he breaks the other rule that Anna set for him, not to wake up his sister, as he begs to be let back in. Only he can see La Llorona screeching at him on the other side of the window, but Chris's behavior is still enough to scare her. In addition to that, Samantha becomes La Llorona's next target. The following day, while Anna is at work, she's playing out in the rain with a see-through umbrella. La Llorona attempts to lure her in the same way that she did with Chris by crying off in the distance. However, Sam has more self-preservation and stops at the fence just at the end of their yard, so La Llorona resorts to other tactics. She blows Sam's umbrella into the water, and when she reaches in to get it, she's met with a surprise. She too is burned when La Llorona grabs her arm and scorches it with her tears. That night, she puts Chris into a heavy trance, and Anna finds him repeatedly opening and closing the front door. She thinks he's sleepwalking, but he's really setting the stage for La Llorona to blow open the door, granting her access to the house, which she uses to confront Anna that same night.
Get out of my house!
Anna ushers the kids to come in and sleep in her bed while staying up all night on guard with a baseball bat. The terror continues the next day. While Anna is at work, La Llorona lures Chris into Samantha's bedroom and knocks him to the floor with another powerful gust of supernatural wind and lunges for him, scaring him away to the edge of the stairs, which she pushes him down after appearing in the adjacent room. He lands on his wrist just before Anna walks through the door, and she completely overreacts, considering from her point of view, he was just sitting there with a sprained wrist. Sure, La Llorona probably could have killed Chris right then and there if she wanted to, but she may have been setting Anna up just like she did with Patricia, to seem like an ill-equipped mother, as she would know firsthand that having her own children taken away from her was a pain worse than death. The ensuing social services visit at Anna's house was probably a humiliation very much akin to La Llorona's feelings when the conquistador she married took her boys away to a better-suited woman. Also, La Llorona still needs to burn Anna with the black tears in order to complete the curse. As Samantha is upstairs taking a bath alone, which seems like kinda not a good idea given everything that has happened, La Llorona seizes the opportunity to attack her and bring Anna to a place of vulnerability. Samantha is washing her hair with her eyes closed when she feels a pair of hands massaging her scalp. For a brief moment, La Llorona is tender with Samantha, just as she likely was with her own children. Sam is tricked by the feeling of that motherly touch. However, as she leans her head back to rinse, La Llorona's decrepit hands pull her under and pin her there. Anna and Chris hear the commotion in the bathroom and run up to save her, just in time. Anna pulls her out of the tub, where she crawls backwards, petrified in fear, almost looking as if she's scared of her mother, but she's actually gazing on to La Llorona. This time, it's Anna's turn to get burned by the weeping woman's touch, just as she turns around to see her. By this point, La Llorona has marked each family member to complete the curse and can now strike at any moment to kill the children. Things would be complicated, however, when Anna goes outside the church to bring in reinforcements. Anna and the kids seek out the Curandero Rafael, who reluctantly agrees and implements his unorthodox methods by having Anna and his kids roll eggs over everything in the house. He calls the ritual La Limpa, and he says that it's meant to detect evil in the house. The ritual of rolling an egg in its shell to pick up or ward off evil is a practice that not only goes way back in Mexican healing, but is still in practice today. He cracks one egg into a bowl, revealing the yolk to have turned into a burning black tar, and the other eggs explode, gushing the substance everywhere. Almost like the spiritual equivalent of a paper towel picking up dirt from a surface. It reveals that La Llorona has definitely made her mark on the house and the family. Anna and the children assist Raphael in several other rituals, leaving the house looking very similar to how Patricia's looked when Anna went to pay her that initial welfare check. While doing this, Chris notices Raphael's cross, which he explains to be crafted from the fire trees that surround the river where La Llorona drowned her children.
They say the fire trees wept as La Llorona drowned her children. As the only witness to her sins, they hold a special power over her.
He also reveals the vial of La Llorona's black blood tears, which he collected from Patricia's house. He mixes it with holy water and refers to it as anti-venom. La Llorona arrives later that night, vicious and determined to find the children. Anna and the kids believe that they're being protected as they're surrounded by candles huddled in the living room under Raphael's direction. But La Llorona takes her by surprise and wails out a horrible sound that extinguishes all of the lights. Anna and the kids are actually exactly where La Llorona wants them. It wouldn't be a movie in the Conjurverse if there weren't some air yeeting, and La Llorona starts that here. Anna is air yeeted out of the way and left unconscious on the floor. As the kids beg Raphael for help, he does nothing, but instead slinks back into the shadows of the house, leaving the kids unprotected and completely susceptible to be air yeeted. When Anna comes to, she gets up to try to save her son, but she's not gonna make it in time. At just the last possible moment, Raphael sticks a hand out and grabs Chris while throwing his vial of antivenom into La Llorona's face. This has the desired effect and burns her face so badly that she lets go of Chris, and Raphael is able to shove her out through the front door. He slams it shut and puts down another row of seeds from the fire tree. Explained another way, it was all a setup to lock La Llorona out of the house, and to her frustration, she fell for it. Because the seeds are collected from the same fire tree that the cross is made from, La Llorona is unable to cross this barrier as long as the line is not broken. And apparently she can't use any of that supernatural wind power to break them herself. I don't make the rules. I guess Rafa overlooked the Garcia's back door though, because La Llorona promptly uses her force to blow it open. Anna, Chris, and Raphael race back to seal it shut, but Raphael was not the only one playing chess here. This was also just a clever distraction.
Clever girl.
She's really just using the back door as a distraction to trick Samantha into breaking the seal. La Llorona gets a hold of Misty, Samantha's beloved doll that she associates with her deceased father. She would not be the first or last evil entity to manipulate a doll in the Conjurverse. Misty is set outside, just barely out of Samantha's reach, so she'd have to reach past the seeds to get it. It's also fitting that she uses this doll named Misty. Mist is the gaseous form of water, and water is La Llorona's murder weapon. Samantha takes the bait and is just barely able to get Misty without breaking the line of seeds, but Anna sees her at the last second and yells at her to get away from the door, causing her to get distracted and accidentally drag the doll through the line of seeds, granting La Llorona access to the house. La Llorona immediately grabs Sam for one of the most dramatic air-yeeting sequences yet. She takes her to the nearest body of water, the backyard pool, and it holds her under. Anna dives in and feverishly searches with the flashlight. Upon finding her at the bottom, La Llorona attacks Anna, and during the scuffle, Anna rips off La Llorona's necklace, the same necklace given to her by her boys that she said she would wear forever. This absolutely enrages La Llorona. It's the last connection that she has to her own children. But before she can retaliate, Raphael blesses the water and mixes in salt, causing the pool to be turned into holy water, which drives La Llorona out. Anna is able to rescue Samantha from drowning, but Samantha is now in a trance, just like what Patricia's son Tomas experienced shortly before his death. Raphael and Anna realize that the only way to keep Samantha from just walking outside into La Llorona's grasp again is that they must keep her locked away, the same method that Patricia was reprimanded for the night of Anna's visit. So fittingly, Patricia would be La Llorona's last trump card to weaponize against Anna's family. Being a regular corporeal human, Patricia has no problem simply walking over the fire seed barrier to abduct Chris and Samantha.
You took my babies from me. She'll give them back to me.
Patricia shoots Raphael on the shoulder and breaks the line of seeds at the door, allowing La Llorona to get inside. It isn't completely clear if Patricia entered Anna's house on her own volition or if this was under La Llorona's direction, but in either case, we know she was manipulated by her belief that her children's souls could be freed if she offered the souls of Anna's children in their stead. La Llorona, after powering her way through everyone in the house, tosses Anna into the basement stairway. As she is thrown, she drops La Llorona's necklace, but Chris picks it up and keeps it close. At this point, the trance on Samantha is broken, with no explanation as to why. I would speculate that it could be tied to the sunrise, as a symbol of the passage of time into the next day. Again, this goes back to the idea that Patricia brought up at the beginning, that she only needed to keep her family safe a little bit longer, and then the evil would potentially move on. The children run to the attic, but the ball and broad finds them and corners them. As the final moments draw near and she walks towards them, Chris uses his final line of defense, La Llorona's necklace. This causes her anger to suddenly disappear. Her face returns to the soft, kind features from her natural life. Different people are going to interpret this in different ways, but I think in that moment, La Llorona saw Chris as one of her own children offering the necklace, and the anger and malice temporarily went away, allowing her to take the appearance of a more friendly ghost. On the contrary, you could look at it as another one of her tricks, her trying to get the Garcia children to let their guard down. The moment of pleasantness would be short-lived, however, as Samantha accidentally uncovers a mirror, allowing La Llorona to see the reflection of her true monstrous self. Eyes covered in black blood, and she immediately reverts to her previous form. The moment did buy Chris and Samantha just enough time for Anna and Raphael to reach the attic and protect them. La Llorona turns her attention to Raphael because he poses the biggest threat with his cross made from the fire tree seeds. She vehemently throws him into a pile of boxes. With all of the Garcia family together now, she charges at them. However, Raphael is just able to kick his cross across the room to Anna, who grabs it and promptly stabs La Llorona through the chest. And that would conclude the Garcia family's chapter with the malicious Central American legend. However, this may not be the final chapter of her story. After Anna and the kids say goodbye to Raphael later that morning, she looks back at a puddle and sees something that alarms her while we hear the sounds of children's laughter. Could this be the return of La Llorona, who is always associated with water, or does this youthful laughter suggest that a new entity, perhaps one of her victims, has legendized as a new threat, joining the likes of Bathsheba, Malthus, Valak, and Isla, among many other evil beings in the Conjurverse? There is a lot more to learn here about these antagonists, so check out the playlist on the left for the lowdown on the Conjurverse's most horrifying villains. And remember to subscribe to CZsWorld for new horrors every week, ring the death bell and select all notifications, and I will see you in the next one, assuming we both survive.
Jinkies, that's impressive.